Hey guys, Britt here. Welcome to End Times Bible Prophecy. Make sure to hit the subscribe, like, share, and restack buttons. Well, are they rolling out the Mark of the Beast system right now? Well, won't leave you in suspense. The answer is no. And the reason I can say that very clearly is because the Mark of the Beast system requires a beast, the Antichrist. The Antichrist is not we're not in the tribulation. Let's put it that way. The Antichrist might be here on the earth right now, probably is, but the Mark of the Beast system rolls out in the middle of the 7-year tribulation. We are not in the 7-year tribulation as of the time I'm recording this video, so what we're going to talk about today is not a rollout of the Mark of the Beast system. However, I can understand why people ask those types of questions based on the articles we're going to look at today, because it certainly seems that way. So let's start with this one right here. This is from Cointelegraph. It says Worldcoin spreads across Europe with Austria digital ID launch. It says Worldcoin expands its digital ID verification technology to Austria, offering residents in Vienna access to the World ID system with multiple locations throughout the city. The Worldcoin Foundation has announced that its World ID issuing orb, we'll talk about that in a moment. Many of you may remember this, but it says the World ID issuing orb has been introduced in Austria, which adds another location in Europe with access to its digital identity verification technology. As of July 31st, residents of Vienna over the age of 18 can verify their World ID at several locations throughout the city, joining a network of over 6.3 million users worldwide. And guys, we talked about this almost exactly a year ago. It was in early August of 2023. This had rolled out late July 2023, where they had this silver orb and all these people standing in line around the globe, staring into the orb, having their irises scanned in exchange for cryptocurrency tokens from a world known as Worldcoin. And the idea behind all of this, as we'll read in a minute, is to create this human authentication system, a digital ID, and eventually provide a form of universal basic income to human beings who may be displaced by artificial intelligence taking their jobs. So we'll get into more of that in a moment. But needless to say, if you remember those videos, it was very creepy, people staring at this orb like it's an idol in lines. It was crazy, and we're seeing those cues spotted in Singapore. It says as people get their eyes scanned for cryptocurrency. So guys, I pulled up a lot of I'd seen these articles. I figured it's time for an update based on what we did last year, because there's a lot of new people to this channel who missed that original video or missed those stories in the mainstream media. As I pulled up these stories, Bob M. reached out to me with a link to this article right here from Bloomberg on this topic, and it gives a much more in-depth overview. So let's look at this. This will help read in people on this story who missed it when it originally came out or didn't see the original video we did. And then we'll talk about the implications for this regarding Bible prophecy, because I believe they're significant, but I do not believe this is the mark of the beast, and I'll explain why at the end in more detail than simply there is no beast and we're not in the tribulation. But this is titled Inside Worldcoin's Orb Factory, Audacious and Absurd Defender of Humanity. And it says the startup, co-founded by Sam Altman, you remember him from OpenAI, which rolled out ChatGPT, is determined to verify every human on Earth, one iris at a time. And this gives, it's partly an article that gives an overview on this man right here, who is Alex Blanya, a German computer science engineering student who went to Silicon Valley and proposed this as a startup. So this gives a little bit of an overview on the story behind Worldcoin. So it says, Europe has a handful of major tech success stories, but it's long trailed the US in terms of the quantity and quality of its ventures and the breadth of its entrepreneurial ambition. This is precisely why Alex Blanya had been put on display near his tiny, shiny sphere. He's the CEO of Tools for Humanity Corporation, which uses the orb as part of its identity verification and cryptocurrency system called Worldcoin. OpenAI CEO Sam Altman, who started Tools for Humanity and recruited Blanya, is a major financial backer, along with Tiger Global Management, 50 Years, Kozla Ventures, Andreessen Horowitz, and dozens of other investors who've contributed more than $250 million to, as the company's website says, quote, ensure a more just economic system, which, as we'll talk about, it will not do that. To achieve that not-so-modest goal, Tools for Humanity wants to create a global identity system for humans. The thinking is that artificial intelligence is improving so quickly that we soon will, or may already, need a way to separate humans from machines. And we'll talk about it at the end, why this is really, all of this is based on a misconception that just basically destroys the whole purpose for this thing to begin with. But it says, in other words, to prevent super smart AIs from flooding the internet with deepfakes, scams, and the propaganda of their choosing, we must have a way to answer the modern existential question, bot or not? And this is where the orb comes in. It takes images of people's irises under the supervision of a human orb associate and grants them a unique world ID, which certifies that a real person belongs to a string of characters the machine generates. You might then use your world ID to log into Shopify or Reddit or a Discord server, and everyone can feel safer, right? Knowing they're dealing with an actual fleshy human and not an AI. This, however, is just step one in a very futuristic vision. People who obtain a world ID can also receive an allotment of the Worldcoin cryptocurrency. Tools for Humanity, which manages Worldcoin, the orb, world ID, and all the rest, argues that crypto will be crucial to solving the income and resource distribution issues that might arise from artificial intelligence. The company would thus like to create a financial network that could theoretically do things like dole out regular payments to people in need, otherwise known as universal basic income. In this scenario, the Worldcoin network would function as a non-government-run financial backstop for people across the planet. Blanya and Altman, who formally outlined their Worldcoin master plan a year ago, have since received feedback that might be generously described as mixed. On one hand, they've already persuaded more than 6 million people to go before an orb and sign up for a world ID. And the sign-up rate has been surging this year. And I want to pause right there, because if you remember a year ago when we were reading about this, that they said expectations were that by the end of 2023, which for those who aren't paying attention, that's already passed, that by the end of 2023, they'd have 1 billion people signed up with a B, 1 billion people. Here we are a year later, they've got 6 million. So... But they describe it as, oh, it's ambitious. They've already persuaded. It's been surging, right? Well, not in the way that they claimed that it would. It says the total value of the digital currency WLD for Worldcoin is more than $550 million. At a factory in Germany, orbs are heading toward mass production and will soon be dispersed around the globe in a bid to push these numbers even higher. On the other hand, the whole scheme has struck many people as ridiculous and dystopian, a privacy nightmare straight from the pages of Orwell. Yep. And it's not just Worldcoin. We don't need to single them out. There's a lot of this stuff. Numerous countries have halted the iris image snapping operation out of fear that the people standing in front of the orbs don't really know what they're signing up for, and that the collection of biometric data is unnecessary and excessive, as a Hong Kong regulator put it in May. Blanya, 30, is well aware of the criticism and admits the Worldcoin effort didn't get off to the best start. Bloomberg News first reported what the company was up to in 2021, months before the founders were ready to shape any message about their intentions. We basically got hit in the face really early, Blanya told students at Joseph's. Over the past year, though, Blanya and his team have tried to address the knocks on Worldcoin one by one. They've improved the security technology in the orb and how the company handles customer data. Which, hold that thought, because they tell us there is no customer data. Right? That's their whole claim. Oh, it's so safe. It's just your iris, nothing else. There's nothing to link you to the iris. We just want to verify that the iris is a real human iris. That's what they claim. So I'm not really sure what customer data they're trying to protect. It says they've met with regulators again and again and managed to sway countries such as South Korea and Kenya to lift their orb bans. Yes, the Worldcoin project can sound nuts. Blanya himself gives it maybe a 5% chance of succeeding. Still, he insists in interviews with Bloomberg Business Week that governments and the public simply haven't caught up to the technological change that's coming for them. And that is absolutely true. Most people, governments, individuals have no clue the totalitarian oppression that is coming and how quickly it's coming. That is absolutely true. Nor are they making the tools they'll need to deal with the ramifications of AI when it really arrives. So the rest of this article goes on to talk about Blanya, oh, he's 6'4", and they give this overview. It's a puff piece. And then we get down to some more of these criticisms. It says, we do know exactly how a lot of humans feel about the Worldcoin effort. Last year, the Electronic Privacy Information Center, a think tank in Washington, described the two major concerns surrounding the project quite clearly in a statement. Worldcoin's approach creates serious privacy risk by bribing the poorest and most vulnerable people to turn over unchangeable biometrics like iris scans and facial recognition images in exchange for a small payout, wrote Jake Weiner, the group's legal counsel. And again, a year ago, when we talked about this story, they were in Kenya offering $50 to have your iris scanned, and they had lines and lines of people in a country where that was a significant sum of money, at least a month's worth of wages, if not more, depending on where you fell within the economic strata of that country. And so people are thinking, well, I can feed my family. All I have to do is stare at this orb. Sure, I'll do that. Not realizing what the long-term implications of that are. So there's some serious ethical problems with that. It says mass collections of biometrics like Worldcoin threaten people's privacy on a grand scale, both if the company misuses the information it collects and if that data is stolen. And I would change that to both when the company misuses the information it collects and when the data is stolen. Because if you recall, if you're as old as I am, you remember that Google, I believe it was in their mission statement, said, do no evil. right? That was their slogan, do no evil. Why was that their slogan? Well, because the people who created the company and built the company understood the power that control over search gave them and the mountains of personal data they could collect on the end user, how they could use the search results to manipulate people, manipulate their opinions, manipulate their access to certain websites, news stories. And so they knew it could be a tool for evil. Well, later, they just sort of erased that statement, do no evil, and now what do? They do all of those things. We see it happening all the time. We looked at it in a recent video where they manipulated the search results. I was looking for a specific article, and they pulled up articles that gave the slant they wanted. And we see that time and again. So it's a matter of when they misuse the information. You can't trust these companies. Even if you could trust the company, companies change hands all the time. They have new ownership. Governments come in and demand information from those companies, and they gladly hand it over. It says regulators have, at least for the moment, agreed with some of these sentiments. When Worldcoin first came out, people in more than 20 countries could visit an orb and sign up. That list has dwindled to 12 countries listed on the Worldcoin website, with many governments throughout Europe, Asia, and Africa pausing signups on the grounds that the service might take advantage of people and that Worldcoin might lose or abuse the identity information. And guys, lest you think otherwise, these governments, there may be some level of concern where we're trying to protect our citizens from fraud. But what they're really concerned about is foreign governments collecting data on their citizens, some other country breaking the monopoly they want to hold on their own citizens' biometric data. What they really want is, well, we want to have tools similar to this to control our citizens. But if you have that, then that sort of infringes on our monopoly there. We don't like that. It's what this is all about. Stuff like this is coming no matter what, but it's not going to be Worldcoin in the way they think it will be, which we'll talk about more in a moment. But it says, in the US, people can have their irises scanned at a handful of tech-forward retail outlets if they'd like to join the Worldcoin identity system, but they don't receive any of the Worldcoin cryptocurrency as a result of the regulatory uncertainty and headaches that still accompany crypto, as well as an indication that Worldcoin has plenty of work to do to be seen as a mainstream service. Although its orb signups have increased at a steady rate over the past year, Worldcoin remains well behind its initial targets. And that, again, that's an understatement, because as we said before, a year ago, they said by the end of 2023, we'll have 1 billion users. So an eighth of humanity. And here we are a year later, and they have, we have 6 million, right? So it's a far cry from their initial target of 1 billion. But of course, let's scroll down to the bottom, because that's where they always bury the best stuff, right? You just go to the end. So here we go to the end, and we'll tie all of this together. It says, for Blanya and Altman to meet their aspirational AI doom-blocking goals, they need the value of Worldcoin to soar. Their belief is that governments won't spring into action fast enough as AI starts altering the economy and putting jobs at risk. People in need of money, the theory goes, will be able to fall back on income provided by Worldcoin. We will definitely need to try new things that do not currently exist, Blanya says. And I would point out, so again, they're in theory creating this, well, we need some way to identify flesh and blood human beings so that AI can't somehow trick these systems. Not really sure what they're getting at there, but they're making a tremendous error in assuming that there will be a delineated difference between flesh and blood human beings and AI. That you'll have one over here and one over here, and that there aren't going to be people who say, you know what, I think I'll merge with the AI, which again is what Elon Musk essentially told us when Neuralink rolled out its brain implants in order to restore, help people who are paralyzed be able to walk again, help the blind to be able to see. And he said, and I'm going to get one too. And I thought, well, Elon Musk isn't blind. Elon Musk isn't paralyzed. Why would he want a brain chip implant? Well, he would want something like that because he would want to augment his own body, augment his mind, connect his mind to networks such as the internet, be able to merge with AI systems, and thus have what he sees as an advantage over people who have not done that. You might call that transhumanism. So this idea that AI and human beings will be separate from one another and that you'll be able to tell the difference and that there won't be people who have scanned their irises but also have augmented themselves with AI is, I believe, an incorrect assumption. So the whole premise for Worldcoin goes out the door with that. But anyway, this goes on. It says, speaking to the students at Joseph's, Blanya downplayed the reaction by regulators over the past year. He's been going country by country, explaining the technology to governments, and he expects that their thinking will catch up to his in time. The sudden rise in power of AI technology over the past year, he says, has already started to alert governments to the threat. In this context, Worldcoin was an early warning system and not the evil identity hoarder it's sometimes made out to be. Quote, I think the predictions we made 4 years ago were correct. We just pointed out they're not, right? And the timelines have aligned really well with where we are, Blanya says. It's about execution now and explaining to people that actually we're not going to steal your soul. And I would say he is correct on that. Satan is the one trying to steal your soul. Technologies like Worldcoin and the orb and scanning your irises, that will make you completely enslaved to this totalitarian system. That will make it so that every aspect of your entire life can be controlled by a centralized authority. And the Bible tells us it will be a global centralized authority. We read this in the book of Revelation, chapter 13, verses 16 through 17. That's where we read about the mark of the beast. It says he required everyone, small and great, rich and poor, free and slave, to be given a mark on the right hand or on the forehead. And no one could buy or sell anything without that mark, which was either the name of the beast or the number representing his name. So again, is Worldcoin the mark of the beast? Here we can go to their website. It is not. But here, this gives us an idea of how willing people are to do this. So what did they say? 6 million people. This has transactions. Let me see. This isn't updating as it was earlier. Let me reload this, see if it'll give us, yep, here we go. 129 million transactions, 6.4 million IDs, a far cry from the billion they were claiming they were going to have a year ago. But guys, this is where this stands now. Could this be incorporated into or become part of the infrastructure that one day becomes the mark of the beast? It could, but it will not meet these promises that the creators have, that oh no, it doesn't have any personalized information about you, right? And you think, well, how can you go claim a wallet, as they say in here? We got an app with the first World ID compatible wallet. Well, how am I supposed to access these websites, do all these transactions, but be anonymous? And even if they could do that, they could separate my biometric data, keep it safe, make sure nobody steals it, and keep it separate from these transactions. No government on earth is going to allow that. They're trying to wipe out cash because they're trying to control us. And the same arguments we see against Bitcoin and other cryptocurrencies will be used against this. Well, the government doesn't know who's making these transactions. It's drug runners and money launderers. And all of these criminals are using this. So we need access to it. Your data will not remain private with this. This will either fade away completely, Worldcoin will, or it will be taken over by governments, and they will use it, and they will not protect privacy. They will use it to control you. There's no doubt about it. Again, the governments, they're not trying to protect people from fraud necessarily. They see this as competition to the monopoly power they want to hold. India already has a biometric database with iris scans of its citizens. So they don't need Worldcoin for this, but they would see this as a threat, a national security risk. People could evade taxes. They could be, maybe even funding protests, right? As we saw in Canada, well, you might send $50 to help those people protest our policies. How dare you? We can't have anything that would allow people to anonymously send those funds, so we've got to shut it down. The governments will not allow this. So, in that sense, this won't become the mark of the beast system. It may be absorbed by it. What is most likely to lead to that mark of the beast system and become that? What technologies do we see today? Well, I believe that it's central bank digital currency, tokenized assets, and digital IDs controlled by governments, centrally controlled. And if you missed last Thursday's article, go over to the Substack at brittgillette.substack.com. At least as of now, when this video is first airing, that will be pinned at the top, an article on how the current global financial crisis will lead to the global tyranny we read about in Revelation chapter 13. And it goes step by step on how we get from where we are today to that midpoint of the tribulation when the mark of the beast rolls out. So I'll probably keep that pinned to the top of the site for a while, maybe a couple of weeks or so, because I believe it's one of the most important articles I've written in quite some time, because it shows exactly how we get from where we are today to what we read about in the Bible. And I believe we're seeing the infrastructure put in place right now. Maybe Worldcoin technology or the orb at some point gets absorbed into that and becomes part of that. But I don't know that it's necessary for that. They'll certainly gather all the data they can on you. They can get your iris scans, all the better. But guys, we're going to see this mark of the beast system roll out in the tribulation, or at least the world will see it. Hopefully you don't plan to be there, as I don't plan to be there to see that. I believe the rapture of the church occurs before the 7-year tribulation. But guys, all of this, when we see this stuff, it tells us the times in which we're living and how close we are to that tribulation period, because it's not just this technology we see that's setting the stage for the mark of the beast system, but so many other things that we see being the signs that Jesus and the prophets said to look for, emerging and converging in our day and time. No other generation can ever saw anything like what we see today. And Jesus said, when you begin to see all these things take place, know that I'm near, I'm right at the door. That tells us Jesus is coming. So if you want to know how we get from where we are today to that mark of the beast system, again, go to brittgillette.substack.com and read that article pinned at the top, because I believe that's a roadmap explaining very clearly how we get to that mark of the beast system. Guys, they've been running pilots on all of this, testing it. They're going to roll it out. It's not going to be a private company like Worldcoin that does this. It's going to be the governments using their police power to push this on the population and to use it to have control over every aspect of every human being's life, complete surveillance into everything that's occurring, and complete power to control who can buy or sell, just as we read about in the book of Revelation. So what do you think? Leave your comments below. Make sure to hit the like, share, subscribe, and restack buttons. And God willing, I'll see you on Wednesday. Bye. If you want to learn more about the end times and Bible prophecy, make sure to visit my Substack at brittgillette.substack.com. There you'll find my latest videos and articles, as well as notes, where I share the latest news headlines, the articles I'm reading, and the videos I'm watching. Subscribe for free, and each new post on Substack will be sent directly to your email. Just scroll to the bottom of the homepage and hit the subscribe button. As an added bonus, your first welcome email will include a link to a copy of my free ebook, 7 Signs of the End Times. Also, make sure to check out all of my books. Just look up Britt Gillette on Amazon, Barnes & Noble, Apple iBooks, Google Books, Kobo, or anywhere books are sold. Thanks for watching today, and until next time, keep your eyes fixed on Jesus, the author and perfecter of our faith.